uh, uh, uh. All right. This is Relationship Pneumatology Live. Today we are debunking the myth that relationship coaching is only necessary for failing relationships. We are coming to you live from the Trinidad Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, where we are also just as the rest of the world, we are in international quarantine. And the reality of the situation is that in this quarantine, many of us are in relationships where we are at home with family, friends, spouses, significant others. And why not use this time constructively to literally put your relationship into the workshop and come out with reignited emotional warmth and passion instead of the adverse, where we come out of the relationship or the quarantine period with emotional distance, coolness, sensual coolness, separation, and even divorce. All right, we are your hosts, Zane and Ketura. Ketura, give them a shout out.
Sure. Hey guys. So in our previous podcasts, we would have covered some really hot topics, some myths that some persons might have been holding on to and unfortunately causing adverse effects in relationship. Some of the myths that we covered were great relationships are effortless because true love is enough. We covered on jealousy. Jealousy is a sure sign of love. We threw that through the door. Getting married or having a baby will strengthen the relationship. And we covered what else? There's one person for everyone, as well as both partners should be willing to change for a successful relationship. So in today's podcast, we're going to kick our next myth through the door on waiting to as a matter of fact relationship coaching. There's a stigma attached to relationship coaching where persons believe that relationship coaching is only for failing relationships. Now if that is what you believe, let me ask you something. Would you wait until you have a cavity and there's a hole growing inside of your tooth and your jaw is feeling intense pain to go to the dentist?
Is
Or
that
would you
serious
do
thing?
your checkups and make sure that would you check up and go to the dentist and get advice or assessment, make sure that your teeth are healthy so that you do not encounter an attack 12 o'clock in the night when everywhere is closed and there's nothing that anyone can do at that moment to help you.
That is a serious
Back to you,
thing.
Zeno. Yeah, that's I mean, just by that example alone, we can put into its perspective where relationship coaching goes. There is a stigma attached to it where persons look at it as, well, I'm married or I'm in a relationship, I'm fine, and a lot of persons hold the titles of their relationship. Well, he is my boyfriend, my girlfriend, my spouse, we live in common law, whatever it is, we have a child together, and they think that because they are existing with the person that everything is functioning as it should be. In this podcast we beg to differ. As we would have shared in our previous podcasts, there are mechanics to everything. Even your relationships, they function by coming into an understanding mutually, both parties coming in and sharing the expectations and mechanically working this thing. So if it is that you're holding on to a perspective that that's for those who are close to a divorce or separation, if you're waiting until the tragedy hits, then we would love to encourage you, or we recommend that you reassess that perspective so that the relationships that you're in right now and even the ones that your prospective relationships don't end up with a 12 o'clock in the night crisis.
See, one of the things that we must all consider, and everybody actually that is joining us today, especially for those of you who actually listened to our previous segments, one of the things that we actually bring to the table here is that we in the Western world, we do not have an objective reference point as to what relationship is. And
Right.
so from that perspective, everybody in the Western world, we have the freedom to actually choose what is our reference point or what our reference point is for our relationship. And to put that in an even simpler way, we have the tendency, literally in relationships, we have the tendency concerning relationships. We have the tendency to understand relationships or to understand what a relationship is or to even find our definitions for what relationship is as from society, from culture, from family, from your
Right.
friends, from somebody in your life who has a relationship, and to you it seems functional, from TV, from Hollywood, from all the romantic comedies that you're sitting down and watching, and you grab your definition of what a relationship is from that. And there is literally no objective reference point as to what relationship is. And the interesting thing is that you have your own definition that you could have encountered from any one of those areas and even more areas. You may have actually begun to understand your relationships from your failed relationship between your mother and father, right? And you approaching relationships as okay, so that is your norm. That is what a relationship
Right.
is to you, and that is your norm. And the person that you actually trying to connect with, they have their own reference point. They have their own norm based on what they choose as the reference point, or the area that they use to define what a relationship is. They chose that as their norm. And now the both of you have actually met, come together, and in the whole idea of the connection, what we have is a battle of definitions, a battle of what a relationship is. And as we covered before, you remember when we spoke about what a relationship is, in that it is a connection that is functionalized by express expectations that are taken on as each other's expectations taken on as each other's promises.
Right.
And what we have commonly in this society, both in the body of Christ as well as those who are outside of the body of Christ, who do not identify as Christians, in both arenas, it is sad because don't people don't really understand relationships to be that, and because they don't understand relationships to be that, they grab their own reference point and they come to connect to someone, which, as we said, are actually emotional attachments. Because
Yeah.
for it to be a relationship, there must be a functionalized connection, which is by agreement. And so they form these attachments, not express their expectations to the person that they're trying to connect to. And in not communicating the expectations, they everybody very audaciously hold the other person responsible to what they define a relationship is. They wouldn't even explain what the definition is or what their perspective of relationship is, and they just actually holding you responsible to it. So,
You know what's
so
fun?
go ahead.
You know what's funny with this whole thing? is that when there are persons who, no, I'm just drawing it into examples so that those who are listening can see what we're explaining here. There are people who are in relationships, as you were saying, without understanding the functionality of it, and think that a relationship functions like this. We let's look at a relationship where two persons are married, for example. The
Right.
wife or the husband may be able to um, express, if you ask the wife or the husband, as a matter of fact, simple things like what does he or she like to eat, what is their routine. Now these are questions that a lot of couples can respond to, and they
Right.
think that that is the sum total of a relationship. What's your favorite movie, what's your favorite color, all these different, what's your favorite show, all these different things. And what we're explaining here is that it goes deeper than that. It goes into the heart. It's not just a matter of connecting with the person through the activities, but through the heart, through
Right.
and I guess this is what you're explaining right now, right? Where the mechanics of the relationship will go deeper. And what is your expectation from this whole connection? Things like that we're talking about.
Right. And that in particular, because these expectations are not expressed, you have emotional attachments that are formed where you just connect you're trying, you actually forcibly trying to connect your emotions and your spirit to this person that you are connected to, that you are manually connecting yourself to. You're forcibly trying to connect your spirit to this person and holding them responsible to what your definition is without explaining what the definition is. And what you have is an arrangement that is doomed for destruction and doomed for failure.
So let me ask you
And
something.
this,
When you say forcibly connecting, can you give us an example? What do you mean by that? Like a practical
all right,
example.
right. So we all know that actually our reference, our objectivity of relationships concerning the mechanics or the what I would actually call the energetic physics of a relationship or the spiritual physics of a relationship is through our research at the International Institute of Pneumatology. And what our research has actually revealed is that every spirit is created to be self existing, which means it is created to be self generating. Right now, because it is self existing, because it is self existent, everything about who you are is generated from within, which is actually what we call heart. And because it's actually self existent and it's self generating, the only way to actually move a self existing energy is to inspire it to move, right? And in the to inspire it, we have
Just
actually
now,
also
you we
proven.
lost you. We lost you just
Huh?
now. When you said move, the connection dropped. Can you repeat that line again?
All right. So what I was saying is that the only way to move a self-existent spirit or a self-existent energy is to inspire it to move, right? Which means that when it comes to relationships, because it's two spirit beings, they're actually two spirit beings that are actually functioning and functioning together. What we have is what we have with regards to the two spirit beings functioning together is that one in particular, for them to work together, there must be a mutual agreement that is formed from the heart. And as I said, as we always say, we functionalize the connection by expressing your expectations. And once both parties express their expectations, mutually express their expectations, and they come to the realization that there can be an agreement, then both parties take on the expectations that they agree to as their promises to each other's expectations as their promises to each other. Now, when that takes place, consistently keeping those promises creates an atmosphere of trustworthiness. And once the atmosphere of trustworthiness is created, then what you have is an inspiration of the two self existing and self generating energies to give spirit, which is actually what we call emotional connections. That making sense over?
Yeah, so far it's making sense.
Right? Now, in the average Western relationship, this is not done, this is not understood. And what we actually do in the Western world is that we see someone we want to connect with, we like it, we like that person, we are fond of this person. And what we do is we say, hey, let's connect. Functionalizing of the relationship. And if there's no
Sorry,
functionalizing of the relationship by
after you said connect, there was silence. Can you just repeat again from there?
so what I was saying is that um, when when there's an agreement to connect,
Mm-hmm.
in the typical Western context of connection, when there's an agreement to connect, what you basically have is two persons saying let's connect without expectations, and so there is functionalizing no functionalization, so to speak, of the energy connecting. So what you do is that you connect by yourself. You forcibly connect to this person without they actually knowing what it takes for them to, for them to connect to you. So
So in a
there's no mutual knowledge here. So one person connect, and then they actually know without expressing what their expectations are or what their definition of relationship is. They expect the person to do and to fall in line or to conform or to meet their expectations without saying it. So when I say forcibly connecting, what you're actually doing is connecting to the person, and then because there are no expectations that are expressed, what literally takes place is that there is, and I do not mean this in any in any metaphoric means. You emotionally connect to this person without mutualism, without mutuality, and you begin to manipulate this person to begin to do what you think that you want them to do for your emotional comfort. And either you're on one side of the spectrum of trying to control them to do it, or you on the other side of the spectrum where you on the receiving end. And because of that, you actually end up emotionally oppressed. So when I say forcibly trying to connect, what you're doing is, or by your own self, emotionally connecting and trying to manipulate them to do what you think that they should do for your
all
emotional
right.
comfort. No
So
agreements.
I just want to narrow in a bit on this, right? On what you're expressing here. Would
Right.
you can you give an example, like, let's say, can you give an example of an area where persons do that, like in a marriage or like a couple partners,
When you say area, what are you talking about?
for like those who are following, put it if can you put it into a way where like so let's take let me see what topic. So there's a cultural understanding, well, at least in some parts of Trinidad, where we are from, that a good woman is one that can feed her husband, for example. And a lot of women
Right.
hold that perspective that cooking is a criteria for marriage in particular. So you'd hear
Right.
people in Trinidad and Tobago saying that we're ready to put you in a house when
Oh
when a
gosh.
woman and when they say
Oh
put in house,
gosh.
they meaning that you're ready to move in, to marry this person when you are
Don't do
when
my
you
dad.
have this some kind of expertise
Don't
with
do my dad.
cooking.
Don't do me that. Don't do me that.
So, so I've known women who have entered into relationships, gotten married, um, holding this criteria to heart without expressing that this is what they are entering the marriage with, and it has ended in divorce. Can you
You
say
must.
that that is an
Mhm.
example? Hmm. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
you must. That's an excellent example, and you must end up in separation because what is actually taking place there is, well, first of all, from what you're saying, there was no conversation, there was no expressed expectations, and there's no expression of what you see a relationship to be. So in that case, the woman actually comes into the relationship based on your analogy, comes into the relationship, and she has been taught by culture, or could be by her mommy, her daddy, her
Hmm.
uncle, the society, from watching one set of movies on television, whether it be Hollywood or Bollywood, watching that, and comes into the relationship with her own understanding that a good woman is supposed to cook and feed her husband. And
Right.
because she is actually meeting her self-imposed condition, she begins to feel self-righteous if
Gotcha.
if her spouse is not actually rewarding her for her self-imposed condition. Now, to change that, all it requires is that both parties actually sit down and understand what they understand a relationship is, and see if they can come to an agreement, what their expectations are, and see if it is agreeable, and then take it from there. So, in your analogy, what there was no conversation, self-imposed condition, self-imposed criteria for being a good woman, and then
Hmm.
in situations like that, like here in Trinidad and Tobago, what you find is that when they're doing that and they're not actually getting the response that they want from the spouse, what they go and do is sit down with everybody else and say, "Well, I'm a good woman. I doing this. I doing it. I doing this. I doing that. I doing
Yeah,
this. I doing
yeah.
that."
I've
And
heard that.
many of them take it from that position and say, "Well, I'm a well, put it in local parlance. I is a good woman. I don't know what he want again." And all that right there are self-imposed criteria that you actually meeting on your own list and buffing your
Hmm.
chest and saying, "Hey, guys are a good one." But with regards to the relationship, which requires actual communication and express expectations, you are not a good woman. You are a good
Right. You're
single
self
woman.
righteous.
You're
Oh my.
self-righteous. You are a good single
Not.
woman, but you're not a good woman in the context of relationship,
Yeah. Gotcha.
right? And
Gotcha.
in that, again, in that context, now to pull this right back into what we're talking about here, this is why a relationship coach or relationship pneumatology coach is important, because what we do here is actually bring you to, based on our research, our more than 20 to 25,000 hours of investigative research, experimental research as to how spirit works, how the energy, what is traditionally called spirit, how the energy works, or the energetic physics or the spiritual physics work. We have a lot of documented experimental research on that. And what we present as pneumatology coaches, relationship pneumatology coaches, is actually that objective perspective, that factual information as to what relationship really is, and how to actually bring the relationship to a central anchor of understanding how your energy or how your spirit works and how they work in union. Now, once you understand that, and we begin to correct, we identify 5 pillars of the relationship, which is what we call the God love aspect of relationship, which is not something that is special, right? In the God aspect of the relationship, or the God love, or the agape love, as the Christian denominations usually refer to it. That's just care for your fellow human being. In a relationship, that also needs to be to be expressed, because everybody usually in the Western world, again, people understand care for your fellow human being according to how they care for themselves. And some persons might care for themselves by actually eating right and dressing nice, while some others may care for themselves by buying cars and buying clothes, while others might care for themselves by making sure that they're comfortable. And so their definition of caring for themselves is actually what they do for themselves. Sorry, their definition of caring for others is based on how they care for themselves. That's the first aspect of the relationship that actually has to be communicated. And by the way, that's not something that is special in a relationship. That is actually supposed to be something that's supposed to be normal for you, humanistic. To actually be humanistic, to care for your fellow human being. Then we have the friendship aspect of the relationship. Then we have the romantic and flirtatious aspect of the relationship. Then you have the sexual aspect of the relationship. And then you have the long standing aspect of the relationship. We bring those five in relationship pneumatology. We address each context of your relationship. And we're going to even train in number six, because to understand your relationship, you have to understand how you as a spirit work first, which means we actually also address self love in relationship pneumatology coaching. So that's six aspects of your relationship: self love, well, God love, self love, which should be God love also, friendship, romantic or flirtatious love, sexual love, and the long standing aspect of your love. We actually bring energetic mechanics, or bring you into objective reference points based on more than 20 to 25,000 hours of experimental research into these five areas, so that you would actually be governing your relationship by the physics of your spiritual function with another spiritual being. Make sense?
Makes sense. All right. That makes
Right?
sense.
And
So for
mhm,
those of you who are interested in putting your relationship into the workshop with us, we will post a link for you where we will take you and guide you through these same steps as Zane just mentioned. We would mechanically take your relationship from failing to success. So from unhealthy
yeah.
to happy, from unhappy to happy.
Right? We are 100% guaranteeing that relationship pneumatology coaching will dramatically change your relationship experience. We actually make out this is actually our call to all, first of all single ladies out there who would like to understand your own spiritual physics and the spiritual physics of another of another human being, and how to actually, from that understanding of spiritual physics, how to choose the right spouse. This is a call to all single people generally, both male and female, to give to actually provide you with experimental research on actually how to effectively connect and build a connection, a functional connection, where the bliss is maintained in all aspects of the relationship, be it friendship, romanticism, the romantic aspect of the relationship, be it the sexual aspect of the relationship, to maintain the passion and the fire, and even the long standing aspect of the relationship. This relationship pneumatology is this live is actually also a call to all persons in relationships, whether you are married or not married, all even in your relationship. For those who are in relationship, pre-marriage, the premarital aspect of a relationship, where you're courting, is the area to actually put these things into perspective, see it work, so you can actually comfortably walk into a marriage. And those who are married, some of you may be married for 10, 15, 20, 30 years. The length of your relationship is not an indication of your knowledge of the energetic physics of a relationship. It could simply be the silence of one partner in the presence of entitlement and control, the settling of one partner that this is what they have and this is what they're working with, and both parties are unhappy. So this is not only for one genre of person. Spiritual, your understanding of spiritual physics or energetic physics for relationship is across the board. So hit the link, hit the link in the description. We actually have a 7-day challenge coming up. And if you're interested, single ladies in particular, we actually forming a relationship pneumatology class for single ladies to educate single ladies to be able to choose a spouse with the most energetic intelligence so that you actually make intelligent and wise decisions. Consider it. All right, so you can hit the link also for both one-on-one coaching as well as group coaching. Don't let the opportunity pass by. It is better to
No.
be educated for the practical and not end up failing in the practical and then looking for education. Damage is already done. Boom
And Bodo.
and Bodo. All right, so this brings us to the end of this segment today. We actually debunked the theory that relationship coaching is only necessary for failing relationships. That is debunked. If relationship is actually failing, it is actually a revelation that whatever you all are doing is not working. It didn't work in your past relationships. It didn't work in your present relationships. And why not just get objective knowledge? Why try to why try to fix the engine by hitting it with a spanner instead of actually understanding the mechanics of the engine to be able to open it and change the part that's going wrong? That ain't making sense.
Not at all.
I let we be intelligent. So stay tuned. We'll hit you all up tomorrow.